So it's New Year's, so it's time to think about what is coming ahead and what you may need to do differently in the coming year. One of the things that I've been thinking about lately is what CISOs might need to do, what Chief Information Security Officers are thinking about as far as their business agenda for 2023. So let's go through some. Really, any CISO or IT department for that matter, but anybody who's responsible for risk and security is going to be worried about business resilience, organizational resilience, and building cyber resilience. So cyber resilience impacts organizational resilience, obviously. So what is the organization going to do to be more resilient? So CISOs are thinking about, okay, we're going to get attacked. We can't do a whole lot about the fact that we're going to be attacked. All we can do is reduce the blast radius, do everything we can with zero trust to stop the limit the spread and the impact, and then make sure that we have good logging and security in place so we can do some forensics and attribution and find out what, if anything, was breached and leaked. But for the most part, we know we're layering in a lot of great controls. We're layering in next-gen firewalls, identity control, PAM solutions, multi-factor authentication, user audits and access audits, role-based access and least privilege permissions. We're layering in EDR and XDR solutions and NDR solutions. We're trying to really log everything and get awareness on everything, but still attacks are happening and successful attacks are happening. So CISOs are forced with the fact that you're going to get attacked, you're going to get breached. How are we going to stand up as quickly as possible? How can we make this attack so it doesn't impact the business? How can we create our systems so that when we get attacked, it doesn't take us down? And that's really what CISOs are thinking about nowadays. And that's really in 2023, but CISOs that haven't gone there have got to start thinking about building cyber resilience. And next, a CISO has to drive business alignment. What's that mean? Okay, the board realizes now, and everybody realizes now, that cyber is a huge threat to the business. If you're a member of an organization that doesn't believe that, then your job really is to help them wake up, to help them understand the threat that ransomware is, the business email compromises, the invoice fraud is, other attacks are attacks on critical infrastructure, supply chain, insider risk. There's so much that a CISO is having to deal with, and it's finally getting the business's attention. So now that we're getting the business's attention, how do we look organized? How does the CISO look like it has a plan so that he or she can drive change in the business and align the business with best practices for security? Not only does the CISO need to be aligned with the business objectives and the values and the vision of the business and be, successful in accomplishing the business's goals, not impeding the business, but the CISO has to, at this point, inform the business and drive the business towards the right decisions. So you've got to be the ally to the business. You have to enable the business, but you also have to help them because they're at a point now when they realize they need your help. So help them. Increasing cyber transparency. Stop being the nerds in the basement. And I am one of these. So, in the perfect world, I'd never talk to anybody. I would just have a lot of geeky stuff around and just read and learn and stuff like that. But be prepared with the business, with your users, with your customers, to be extremely transparent. If you have your stuff together, you should be able to report on a breach within 72 hours. Now, what does that take? Okay, you get breached. A bunch of customer data gets taken. How do you know? How do you know what data was taken? Do you have mechanisms in place? Do you have a plan in place for identifying that and being able to report that out? Do you have a PR plan in place? a legal plan in place? Do you have something pre-prepared? That is where you have to be. You have to be expecting breach, anticipating breach, assuming that you're already breached. Let's start preparing this statement. Let's prepare a report saying, okay, a worst case scenario breach report saying, okay, all of our PII, EHR, whatever, was just breached. The threat actor is selling it all from Romania. What does that need to look like from legal, from PR, from you? What does it need in order to retain customers and to look honorable and honest and transparent? You need to be able to do this. If you have a chief risk officer, work with them. If you have a senior counsel, work with them. A general counsel, work with them. Work with your other executives. Work with PR. But this is something you need to be able to respond quickly to demands from the press, demands from your user base, your customer base, and regulators. The more you are silent in an incident, the worse your company looks, and the more your chances are you're going to have a lot of egg on your face. Next, a CISO right now is having to optimize resources. A lot of that is because of the economy, recession. The business is asking for more and more and more, and realizes that cyber is more and more of a threat. But you are a cost. You're not a revenue driver for the company. So how does the business treat you? You're just a cost center. So when you keep asking for more and more money, it's just costing more and more money to operate the business without any additional revenue. You're not making money for the business. So it's a matter of making wise purchasing decision, optimizing your stack and what you have. And for the budget increases you can get, using them most effectively. Attack the largest risks in the organization. Don't just go for the best tech. Aim for what matters. Do some crown jewel analysis and focus on that stuff. Next, the CISO is going to be doing a lot of standardization and automating things. Automating. Gosh, wow. It's been a year. My tongue is just like tying itself in knots. Anyway, one of the things, we at Arium have an XDR platform, and I love it. And I've always been on board with DevOps and DevSecOps for years. I read the Phoenix Project as soon as it came out, and I've been all about automation and integration of teams and doing the most you can with a small team that works very agile and focuses on the biggest problems to the business, biggest constraints. So as a cyber exec now, CISOs are having to figure out how to automate stuff they're doing. So instead of having 10 threat hunters on your SOC, you need one and a lot of playbooks, that kind of thing. Standardize as much as you can so that cyber isn't an art anymore, so that you can write automation around it. Now, cloud is really the next thing, securing your cloud. Now, a lot of businesses think they're in the cloud, so they're secure. This is actually really far from the truth. The cloud configures differently. There's API security now. There's IAM, which is in Azure and in AWS, isn't necessarily based on your on-prem infrastructure. Things work differently in the cloud. You can easily misconfigure something and impact a lot of your infrastructure and breach customer data, et cetera. So, everybody's heard of the open S3 buckets. So how do you fix this? Well, there are several tools, but Wiz, Orca, things like that, in order to really focus on cleaning up your infrastructure in the cloud and making sure that your configurations are meeting best practices. A configuration management system and a cloud posture management system really is what we're talking about. Identifying the security risks that you have in the cloud, the kind of data you have in the cloud, what the security layers you have if you're using a defense in-depth methodology, what the layers to your onion are, and if you're using zero trust, really making sure that's implemented well. Some things need to be automated and templated so that it's really easy to redeploy the right security. But gaining visibility there is important. So, most companies do not configure their stuff right in the cloud. They just fire up resources and go. So that is the most vulnerable part of your organization. So making sure that you have made secure cloud footprints, hardened images and templates, making sure that you're addressing vulnerabilities even in the cloud, assessing your risk constantly, doing penetration tests, etc. Using software that will help you identify those problems and really understand your cloud posture and security posture in the cloud are important. Palo Alto has Prisma also. There's a lot of solutions. Now, next for the CISO, I've kind of alluded to this also, is with the incident response plan and coming up with that messaging ahead of time, is come up with a plan for cyber crisis. Since the likelihood of you getting an attack and being attacked and having to deal with the cyber crisis is so high, it makes sense that we prepare for it, doesn't it? So get your incident response plan together, plan your cyber plan, work it with your executive team. I've been through a lot of incidents, handled a lot of large companies with incident response that have had ransomware, very large companies. And regardless of the size, it can be a Fortune 500 company, it can be other openly traded companies, or it can be a private company, it doesn't matter. People drive themselves sick during the incident. They'll pull all-nighters until they collapse and go to the hospital. People rage quit. Tempers are flaring because the CEO is blaming the security guy or the IT guy, et cetera. A board of directors is coming down on everybody. There's a lot of bad communication going on, a lot of negativity, a lot of pressure on everybody. So it's important to have a plan, how to update to the board of directors, how to update to the CEO, how to update to users, how is legal and HR and the PR and marketing and sales, how are all these parts of your organization going to be working together to help support you through this incident? You're going to need, your salespeople are going to be getting hit from customers asking stuff. They need to know what they're allowed to say. HR will be getting hit by your user base. If you have 30,000 employees in the US and you get ransomware, HR is going to start getting called with my employee data being breached. What's going on here? They're going to be worried. So it's important for you to have a plan for crisis management together. So when it's, regardless of the attacker, now different kinds of attacks can be more impactful. And some of them, sometimes the attacker is threatening people at home, calling them and threatening them, let me back into the system or else, I'm going to do this and ruin your identity or credit or whatever. That is how they play. Now, there's a lot of, pressures here that we have going on. Like I said, ransomware, business email compromise, invoice fraud, etc. There's a lot of stuff. And there's regulators and compliance requirements. And then there's shareholders and stakeholders. And you have a lot going on. Build a support network within your organization is something that a CISO should do. That should be one of your resolutions, is building that support network so that you have that team of other executives to lean on who understand where you are right now, understand the plan, and are able to help you. Don't be the enemy of everybody. And I've seen this happen a lot. You have the geeky executive who ends up in a power role, and he doesn't really know how to lead, doesn't really know how to manage. All he is loud. And that does nothing but alienate people. And when you're in an incident, which is bound to happen. Or you need more budget, or you need support or change management help from the HR to get a new policy through, like whatever. Build allies within the organization. Go around and spend time networking with people. Do what it takes. Take them out to lunch, take them out to dinner, go to their social or party or whatever. Like, get involved with the people in your organization, because they're going to have your back. And if you have positioned yourself as their enemy, they won't. All right. Thanks a lot.